Good afternoon and welcome to BBOC Live, presented by BetMGM. This is a special edition Tuesday night college basketball betting preview. I'm Stuckey, and joining me tonight are fellow BBOC co-host Mike Calabrese and colleague Charlie DiSturco. Got a lot to get to today. We're each going to give two best bets. It's an awesome college basketball card. We'll talk about two of the marquee games. We'll cover UConn, Creighton, and BYU, Baylor. But before we get started, I do want to remind everyone to make sure you download the award-winning Action Network app. You can find all of our bets there, in addition to an abundance of data and content for today's slate and beyond. And also, as I mentioned previously, this show is presented by BetMGM. Use bonus code ACTION when signing up to get $150 in bonus bets when you bet $5 for new users in Arizona, Colorado, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, and Wyoming. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 plus. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, before we get started here, it is, I think we're 25 or 26 days away from Selection Sunday. Depends on how you count. Do you count today or not? So I'll start with trivia. You guys can just throw out an answer if you have one. Who was the last non-1, 2, or 3 seed? And you have to exclude Connecticut because they've done it a bunch. That won the national championship. You got to guess.
Oh, Louisville was no.
We'll go UConn.
But no, UConn is definitely
UConn. You got to throw out.
You got to throw out UConn.
As well? All right.
It's not Louisville, was it?
Nope. You got to go all the way back to 1997 when Arizona did it.
Ooh, were they
and they won it. And 06 actually is the last time a non-UConn or 1 or 2 seed has won it, when Florida did it. So the national championship has been dominated by either UConn or a 1 or 2 seed for about 20 years now. But we have a lot of time before we get to that once the bracket is revealed. Let's get things started here for Tuesday night slate. And we'll start off with our best bets. I'll kick things off. I'm going to go with Utah State at home. I think this is a really good spot. Huge game for first place in the Mountain West. I think it's a good bounce back spot for Utah State. I think they're more likely to hit some jumpers from the outside here. Revenge from the first meeting. But most importantly, this San Diego State team, which is so good at home, they just are not the same team away from home, especially in altitude. You look at a player like Jay Powell, for example. You look at his numbers in altitude. I mean, he falls off a cliff. I don't know if he just struggles when he gets up into altitude or what happens, but he was huge in the first matchup with all of the attention that was spent on the day. So I think Utah State at home here against a San Diego State team that has already lost on the road to the other top four teams in the Mountain West. This is the 5th. I don't think they pull it off. I think Utah State gets a big win at home. So give me the Aggies. Calabrese, where are you going?
I'm going to go with a road dog here, taking San Francisco catching 7.5 in the Battle of the Bay between the Dons and the St. Mary Gales. The last time they played, St. Mary's just took it to them. They beat them by 17. But here's the thing. We know that the Gales are going to slow this pace down. They're 357th in the country. So a low possession game is on tap. Both of these teams keep their opponents off the offensive glass. So really it comes down to, do the Dons have enough offensively to make their possessions count? I think they do. They can really put the ball in the basket. They're top 30 in shooting efficiency, 9th in 2-point percentage, and they're an elite foul shooting team. And it doesn't hurt that they're on a 6-game win streak and come to this game with, for my money, the best player in the West Coast Conference. That's Jonathan Mogbo. He's taken the leap up to POY Player of the Year. He's averaging 16-10-4 with 2.5 stocks per game during their win streak. And if you look at advanced metrics, game score, win score, everywhere across the board, he's a top 10 player nationally. So he's a name you should know. And I think he's going to put the Dons on his back in this one and at least keep them around for 40 minutes. So I'll take beyond 2 possessions, the plus 7.5.
Yeah, don't mind this one at all. We're going to find out a lot about St. Mary's. If you remember earlier in the season, this is a team we knew about the defense, and I think they're top 10 in adjusted efficiency on the defensive end. But early in the season, they couldn't score, right? They would go through long stretches, have a great coach, Randy Bennett. They've started to figure things out on that end, and they've won, 12, by glance, 12, 13 games in a row. But now they lost Jefferson. Big loss. What are they going to look like after him we saw them against Pepperdine. Who cares? But we'll learn a lot more about St. Mary's tonight in this game. But I would lean the dog there as well. Charlie, where are you going, brother?
Yeah, I'm heading out to Wake Forest. I do want to say, by the way, I know it was hard for you to say colleague Charlie DeSturco, but I appreciate the hat tip there. But I am taking Wake Forest here -5.5. They are much better at home. You look at their home road splits. They only have just one win in conference play on the road. Well, they're actually dominating at home, an average win margin over the last 4 by nearly 20 points. And I think this is a great revenge spot and a buy spot on Wake Forest. They're off 2 straight losses, but it came against Duke and that defense of Virginia. And then the last time these two teams played each other, they just couldn't connect from 3, but that is going to change here at home, I believe. Wake Forest just due for some positive regression over the last few games, not playing too hot from 3, and shot quality actually grades them right around 30 to 35 and off the dribble and catch and shoot threes. So I think this is a great opportunity for Wake Forest. They're on the bubble right now. They need to make a statement win, and they have 2 great opportunities with Pitt, who is on fire right now, 7-1 in the last 8, and Duke on deck. So I don't think they're going to be looking ahead toward Duke. I think they're going to be ready off these 2 losses to put a big number up on Pitt. So I'm fine with laying the points here, 5.5, 6. Give me the Wake Forest Demon Deacons.
Yeah, Wake has been a juggernaut at home. A huge game for them. I mean, they are squarely on the bubble. They get this, and then they can get a home win over Duke Saturday. I think that they're on the right side. So this is a massive game. But you lose this, it could get dicey, and then you'll need to pick up a few key ones. You mentioned the potential regression for Wake Forest. On the other side, Pitt has benefited from some positive variance as well on the 3-point line on both ends. So that could work in your favor as well. And yeah, you are my colleague. You made the graphic. You're on the graphic today. But it is interesting that Charlie also is a producer, but somehow he has the worst sound. He has the worst sound out of all 3 of us today. We got to get you a new mic. But all right, good stuff there with our first best bets. Let's move on to our first marquee matchup of the night. And we're going to go to the Big East. It's a good one between UConn and Creighton. Creighton will host the red hot UConn team that just dispatched Marquette at home, a game that they really wanted. I'll talk a little bit about this game later on, but I do like Creighton here in this spot. If you can get 3 or more, look, they're playing their best basketball of the season. Theoretically, their defense should slow down what UConn wants to do. Now, they can't shoot 6 of 26, whatever they shot from 3 like they did in the first meeting, but this is a whole different ball game at home. You're getting UConn off that big emotional win. So I know Creighton is playing really well. They're playing better than they're what I thought their peak could be. So I like the home dog here. Calabrese, you disagree?
Well, I mean, you're talking about teams playing well. In the past month, UConn's Torvik ratings offensively 1st, defensively 4th, and on top of it, on a player personnel basis, a lot's made out of the drop calc, defense and how much he brings to them in terms of versatility on both ends of the floor. Klingon, post-injury, is finally realizing his enormous potential. 2 double-doubles and 15 stocks in his last 4 games alone. He's adding like a new intimidation factor to their defense to add on to everything they're doing in terms of the scoring by committee, all their guards that they rotate in and out. I understand that Creighton could turn this into a rock fight, but I kind of trust the UConn defense to hold them below 60 again. You got to remember the Huskies' interior defense just keeps getting stronger. They're 7th in 2-point percentage D at only 43.5% from inside the arc. So I'm going to ride the hot hand here and stick with the Huskies, who they really strike me as a team that's looking to break through for the first time and not a team dealing with complacency issues and trying to repeat. I think they have a lot of fire, and I don't think that it's, just performative. I think they actually want to close out this season on a huge win streak and go into the Big East tournament with a ton of momentum.
Yeah, they're looking to become the first team since that Florida team that I mentioned earlier in the show to go back-to-back. An interesting thought experiment. So I might put you on the spot here. Like, you don't have from last year's team, you don't have Sonogo and Hawkins. Like, if you look at most metrics, I think I have them close. UConn last year and UConn this year. Now, obviously, UConn won the title, so they got a boost from winning those games. Call it a pick on a neutral floor. You're taking this year's team over last year's?
I think I'll go with last year's team. I trust a little bit more their perimeter shooting. It's been a little boom or bust for them this time around. It hasn't really mattered. And one final thing, not to kind of hedge my bet here, but The Big East just doesn't have the same cachet to me, top to bottom, that it did last year. When you look at UConn's win streak and what they've been able to do, through January into February, a lot of wins over teams that they should beat the stuffing out of. Now, they get credit for it, and the advanced metrics love them because of it, but I just don't see this being the same gauntlet that it was even last year.
Yeah, but for what it's worth, looking at UConn's road schedule this year, I mean, they played Georgetown, DePaul, St. John's, Villanova. They won by 1. Xavier, they won by 5. Butler, they won by 7. So, and then they lost at Seton Hall. They haven't had a treacherous road league slate so far. So this will definitely be their biggest test. I do have to give a lot of credit to, Cam Spencer's been incredible. He's shooting about 44% from 3. Yeah. Defensively, if you look at the advanced metrics of him defensively, this is a guy that's just always in the right place. And he's just been incredible on both ends. But I like Creighton. Calabrese rolling with UConn, which is never a bad option these past 2 seasons. But Charlie, it's up to you to break the tie.
Yeah, I'm siding with you, Stuck. I'm going with Creighton here with the points. I just think that, having Kalkbrenner is a very nice combatant to Klingon. I know Klingon was hurt in that first game, but Kalkbrenner did, limit him a bit in the time that he did play, and he did finish with 5 blocks. And I think that this, what UConn wants to do with the rim in 3, they want to shoot a lot of 3s. They want to get it and attack the rim through Klingon. That is precisely what Creighton wants to take away. They want to force people into the mid-range. Now, UConn has the players to make those mid-range shots, but we saw them turn the game into a rock fight. UConn struggled to really make all those shots in the first game. I think the same is going to happen here, and I don't think Creighton's going to struggle from 3 as much. You look back, they only shot 23% from the perimeter. So I'm willing to back the home team here. In the last 3 games between these 3 teams, it's been rock fights. So I don't hate the under as well. And last 3 times, every single time the home team has won. And I think Creighton gets the job done here.
Yeah, you would also have to imagine Creighton does a better job on the defensive glass this time around, which was certainly problematic up in UConn. But should be a good one. Can't wait to watch that one tonight. Let's move on to our second marquee matchup, and we're going to go to the Big 12, which seems to have just a marquee matchup every night of the entire season. We saw Houston, Iowa State last night determine who moved into first place. Now we have another big one tonight in Baylor traveling to BYU. I like BYU here. Line is starting to kind of get away, but this is just a brutal travel spot for Baylor. I mean, you're going from Morgantown all the way out west into altitude. They still have defensive issues. Look, and they're not looking to run, which is really how you have to exploit this BYU defense. I think it's a great bounce back spot for BYU off that bad loss where Oklahoma State went nuclear from 3. Baylor defense still has a lot of holes, which I think will be exposed on the road here. Langston Love, maybe not. I haven't seen an update on him. He's not fully healthy yet. So I think this is a great spot to back by BYU. Market is certainly agreeing with the price, but Calabrese, you like a player prop here.
I do. Yves Missi has really taken over. If you look at the top freshmen in the entire country, there was some hype coming in, to the season in Waco for him. But the feeling more so than anything was that he needed more seasoning. He needed more experience to understand, how to move the ball out of the post, how to move, without the basketball to be able to set up scoring opportunities. And he was going to be somebody who could do some work on the offensive glass and certainly help in their rotation. He has really taken on a much bigger role, and he's helped Baylor kind of pull out of their mini scoring slump from mid-January. When you look at what he's done in, let's call it the last 6 games, the 7-foot freshman is averaging 15 points per game in that stretch. And a big part of it is he's getting to the line way more than he did earlier in the season. So he's understanding how to use his size, be a little craftier, playing the angles. And during the scoring spree, he's averaging 6 foul shot attempts per game. So I like over all the way up to 11.5 on his points here. Also, if you listen to some of the post-game press conferences with his coach, Drew, he's been emphatic about how good he's been without the basketball, and also how his teammates are trusting him to look to him, to not necessarily just view him as somebody who's going to clean up things on the glass. He's been great in the pick and roll on both ends of the floor. I think for that reason, you're going to see him put up 7 or 8 shots, gets to the line 5 or 6 times. So I think there's plenty of value going over 11.5.
Yep. All right, good stuff there. We will save, Charlie, your take for your second best bet, which is what we'll get into now to close out the show. I already mentioned Creighton bet. Charlie, you added on to that. Not much more to say. I like the home dog in this spot. I think this one should come right down to the wire. Before, Charlie, we get your take on Baylor BYU for your best bet. Calabrese, you have a second best bet. What do you got?
So I'm going to go with a team that you've backed many a time in the last couple of years, Stucky, and that's TCU. I'll take them plus the points in this spot. They match up really well against Texas Tech. They defeated the Red Raiders by 7 points 3 weeks ago, but when you dig into that box score, it could have been a blowout had it not been for the fact that Tech shot 14 for 28 from 3-point range. That had the markings of a double-digit win for the Horned Frogs on their home court. And despite the national ranking, Tech is still 2-4 in their last 6 due to some uneven offensive performances. I just view TCU as a little more consistent. They're going to push the pace. They did it in the first meeting, being able to score in transition and in the paint off of their secondary break. They're going to be very, very aggressive and try to get better shots using that aggressiveness. So I'm going to go ahead and take the points here. I flirted with the idea of them at plus 190. I needed a little bit north of 2-1 to pull the money line trigger, but I'll take the points here right on the cusp of 2 possessions.
Yeah, I don't mind a shot on the money line either because there is some injury uncertainty. I believe we mentioned Baylor. Langston Love is game time decision questionable. I would guess that he's out, but apparently he's just questionable and it's a game time decision, hasn't been announced yet. Warren Washington for Texas Tech is super important. He's a game time decision, questionable. And all TCU wants to do is they want to get out and run, they want to get out in transition, and they want to attack the rim. And if you don't have Warren Washington there, I mean, Tech gets small quick. I mean, you're playing at 6-7 at the 5, and that's very problematic against TCU, which just relentlessly wants to attack the rim. So, yeah, you got some injury uncertainty that could work in your favor. But, Charlie, your best bet is going back to the Big 12 game we talked about earlier.
Yeah, no, I love BYU in this one. Revenge spot, a home buy low, sell high spot on the Cougars. I mean, if you look and dive into it, obviously you talked basically, you give a good outline on it. Baylor, they're also around 348th in away from home metric per Haslametrics. So they do struggle on the road. And I think that's a big concern here, especially with a guy like Langston Love out who provides that stability on the perimeter. And then you dive into the numbers a little bit deeper. BYU, they can take advantage from 3. They didn't in that first matchup, but I think they will here. They have 3 players that shoot nearly 38% or higher from 3. And Baylor, their inefficiencies from the perimeter will loom large. They're 221st in catch and shoot, 250th and off the dribble threes per shot quality. And I think that that's a huge key here. And then if you look on the other side as well, guys like Jalen Bridges and Ray J. Dennis are 5 to 8% higher than their career averages. So BYU, they cover the perimeter well. And like you said, they are really cooked in transition, but that's not what Baylor wants to do here. They want to slow the game to the halt. And I think that works in BYU's favor where they have the all-out assault on offense. So Jimmer Fredette's not with the Cougs anymore, but they still have plenty of shooters to make it and light it up from 3. So love taking the points here. I believe it's -4 right now, 4.5.
Yeah, one of the best games that I ever saw live in person, college basketball games, was dating myself here, was with Jimmer Fredette. Mountain West Conference tournament. I was out in Vegas for it. Best weekend to go, by the way. You should always go for the first weekend at least once, but the best weekend to go is for conference tournament weekend. But went for a BYU game, and Fredette dropped 52. It was absolutely electric. But all right, good stuff. Thank you to Charlie and Mike for joining me. Thanks to our producers on the back end that made everything work despite Charlie's audio. And most importantly, thanks to all of you for tuning in. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe like button. It really helps us out. And one final reminder to make sure you download the award-winning Action Network app. You can find all of our bets there in addition to an abundance of data and content for today's slate and beyond across all sports. And one final reminder, BBOC is presented by BetMGM. Use bonus code ACTION when signing up to get $150 in bonus bets when you bet $5 for new users in Arizona, Colorado, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, Wyoming. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 plus. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Also, make sure you tune in to Big Bets on Campus. Wherever you listen to podcasts, guys from the 3-Man Weave will be on, as always, tomorrow with an episode. We'll be back later in the week. And then you can join us for BBOC Live Saturday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern, just like every week. But good luck on all of your wagers. Enjoy the end of February. March will be here before we know it. Cheers.